Thank you for coming. Did everyone get their badges scanned? Who wants to win some money today? Yes, right? I love it. Thank you so, so much. Yes, everything I own is sparkly. Thank you for noticing. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, no. Actually, one time I used to run a shelter in West Virginia a long time ago, if y'all don't know that. And actually, Julie Castle on stage during general session yesterday said some of your biggest detractors, right? So some people hated me that when I ran the shelter and took it from a high euthanasia facility to one that today saves more than 90% of the animals. And somebody called me Animal Rescue Barbie. And my favorite volunteer, and I'll let you guess why, went on eBay and found a discontinued Animal Rescue Barbie. Oh, and she sits on my desk to this day. So, yeah.
Love it.
That's right. Eat their word. So that's what we're going to talk about today, actually. That's a great segue. I love that. So if you have all had your badges scanned, we will get started. We have a ton of data and content to go through in 45 minutes, so we're going to move pretty fast. I'm Chelsea Staley. I'm the Director of Lifesaving with Petco Love, and I am joined by literally one of my new best friends. We've never met in person until now.
Yes. Well, no, we met yesterday, but you know.
So let me tell you how I found Karen. So Petco Love, of course, has a program called Petco Love Lost, and we'll get into the data about what's going on in animal sheltering right now. And my good friend Brent Tollner is sitting over here and has graciously shared so much of his data with us to share with y'all. But I was looking at organizations, foster-based organizations specifically, and their RTO rates, return to home, return to owner, whatever you guys want to call it, and what percentage of their pets in care they are willing to share on Petco Love Lost, right? And one of the biggest, I don't want to use the words complaints, but we're friends here, right? That foster-based rescues give us for not wanting to show their pets on Petco Love Lost is those pets' stray holds have been exhausted and they don't feel like they should have a chance to go home to their owners anymore. So I was looking at data, and as of yesterday, 113% of Karen's average pets in care are visible on Petco Love Lost for people to have an opportunity to reclaim their pets. So Karen is a rock star, and that's how I found her. And I thought, why not bring somebody who practices what I'm about to preach to present with me, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
All right, so we are so glad that y'all are here with us. We have big competition. Jackson Galaxy is presenting, and if y'all didn't know that, please don't leave us. But he's presenting. I love Jackson. And the objectives of this session today are to examine national life-saving trends both before and after COVID. And we are going to do that with Brent's help. And if I screw it up, he's going to tell me. So thank you in advance. And then we're also going to explore what happens when, I feel like I can't see y'all over here. I'm sorry. What happens when potentially what was once a well-intended barrier, what happens when that's removed, and instead we think about what can happen if that barrier has maybe become a roadblock to saving animals in this animal welfare environment that we're in today. And then, I think Julie read my mind, or at least my notes, before she got on stage yesterday morning, recommit to our shared belief in life-saving, and then collectively work to course correct the national save rate. So I took some notes. I was so inspired by Julie's presentation yesterday, or maybe she took them from me, that the world is not going back to the way things were, right, before COVID. We all know that. And so we must recreate and redefine the way that we work. And I think we all know that. So that is what we're going to do today. All right, Brent, you're up, buddy. So the national save rate decreased for the very first time in 2022. And the chart graph on the right-hand side of your screen was made by none other than Brent, our good friend over here in the second row. And that's a hard number to see, right? It's really troubling to see that. And the people in this room bust our asses to make that not happen, right? That's really hard to see. And then in 2023, despite decreasing intake, the national save rate continues to decline, and we're working really hard. And we're really tired, right? We're really frustrated, and we're really tired. And nonetheless, the number of dogs euthanized between January and July 31st, 2023 is still more than 20% higher than the same time period last year. That sucks, right? It sucks and it's unacceptable. And it's not that we're not trying, right? So we got to figure out how to do things differently. And so the graph on the right-hand side is Best Friends data set through 2022. The written data here is from 24 Pet Shelter Watch data, 2019 through July 31st, 2023. So 2 different data sets. I just want to call that out. So while intake is decreasing, adoptions have stalled, and honestly, transfers have too. And so you can see these 2 graphs here are dog intake versus adoptions. Again, they're from Brent's data. And then cat intake versus adoptions. And so the light orange lines are dog adoptions and cat adoptions. And you can see over the last few years, they've just really remained really steady. And while intake has not gone back up to where it once was, the life-saving gap continues to widen. And that really has gotten us to where we are today. And it's not as urgent in cats as it is in dogs, but they still count and it's still important in cats too, right? So that has led us to essentially a bottleneck effect where pets are getting stuck in care. And what happens when pets get stuck in care, days in care, and I don't want to screw this up, so let me refer to my notes, right? So the graphs here are visualizing days in care, which is a metric unlike length of stay, right? Who knows the difference between length of stay and days in care? Almost. What's it? Anybody else? There's one difference, basically, between days in care and length of stay. Who said it? Outcome. Days in care animals do not have an outcome. Length of stay is calculated when an animal leaves, okay? So these are animals without outcomes. They are actively in the shelter system, okay? So this metric is used to measure pets in shelters at the end of each month, including the number of days that they have been there, okay? So the red lines here are 2023, and the dark, what color does it look like out here? The dark bluish, tealish, whatever the next highest line, obviously, is 2022. And so these days in care numbers are higher than ever before. And while they're also higher in cats, it's really bad in dogs, right? So what's happening? The shelters are filling up, like to the brim, with dogs that are just sitting there. And who are they? Puppies? Nope. Are they little chihuahuas? Nope. What are they? Big, bouncy dogs, right? And what happens to big, bouncy dogs that are in a kennel too long? They go crazy, right? Too much energy, and then they're harder to place, and they were the hardest animals to place in the first place, right? So we have this bottleneck effect that we're dealing with, and the situation is becoming more dire by the day. And literally, animals are just getting lost in the system, if you will. I don't mean lost physically, but lost in the system. So I would encourage you to start thinking about pets as being lost and not astray anymore. And so to overcome the bottleneck effect and relieve the pressure on organizations of all types, right? I think we should all dare to courageously reconsider the way that we've operated in the past and be open to redefining the pathways in which pets get to leave our care, but also the efficiency of our processes, okay? So length of stay, we just talked about, is the number of days an animal was in our care with an outcome, right? One single day doesn't feel like a lot to take up an extra kennel space, right? But when you're talking, you do 10,000 pets a year, that's 10,000 extra days. What's your cost per day, right? And then if you multiply that by 1,000 organizations, 4,000 organizations, whatever that is, think of those resources that are getting eaten up. And maybe it's not big to your one organization, but when you're talking the animal welfare community as a whole, how many more pet lives could we have saved with those number of days and all of those resources that if we would have just worked more efficiently, right? And I think that, and I used to run a foster-based rescue. We didn't count our length of stay days, right? We weren't faced with open intake all the time. And I will tell you, I was the first to not think about that, right? But if I were running one today, I would think differently, honestly, because every single day counts, right? So specifically, I would encourage this audience to think of these pets as family members and not stray or discarded. So when you look here at intake types, and this is back to the 24 pet data set, okay? And I pulled this data with an abundance of conservation. Anybody here Pet Point or Chameleon users? There's about 1,200 shelters, humane societies, foster-based rescues, et cetera, represented here. And so you guys know the C/custody intake type, right? Nobody really uses that the same. That might be an animal cruelty seizure, but it might be an animal came in with an officer that came in just as a stray, right? I backed all that out because it kind of waters down the numbers, right? So I only use the animals that have a stray intake type, so I'm assuming those are over the counter. I would argue, personally, my hypothesis is that the stray intake number, and Brent's data is very different, right? But for the sake of this conversation, I want to be super conservative and say that stray intakes, let's say, are only 42% of the intake population. And I think we all know it's higher than that. Do we agree? Way higher than that, right? So very conservatively, let's say it's just 42%, okay? And then when we look at outcomes as a percent of intake, 61% of our outcomes since 2019, and we know they're stalling, right? So that will be falling in the future, are adoptions. The second largest outcome type is transfers. So I would encourage you to think, if you're an organization transferring animals in, that there is a 42% chance that that pet already has a family. And guess what? That is the fastest way to get them out of your building or your foster homes or your whatever, right? They already have a family. You don't have to spend your resources on finding a new one. Okay. All right, and then we move on to return to home by org type, and this is another data set, so bear with me. This source is Petco Love's Animal Welfare Partners, and these are from our annual data reports that you guys submit when you are applying for grant funding. So this data set is just about 600 animal shelters, 600 animal welfare partners, and I broke it down into 3 organization types, so animal controls, humane societies, and then foster-based rescues, so a much smaller data set. And not surprisingly, the organizations performing the most return to homes are animal control organizations. It's exactly what you expect. They're traditionally the organizations that are responsible for stray intake and thus are doing return to home, right? They're also the organizations who are first in the animal welfare pipeline. They're usually the largest volume of animals, right? However, also, which is visualized on this slide, is humane societies who are also serving huge pet populations, right? Some of them much larger and much wealthier than animal control orgs. And you'll notice that they're doing less than a quarter of the return to home volume of animal welfare orgs, of animal control orgs. And then the foster-based rescues in this data set's return to home numbers round to 0. They're not all 0, not everybody, but the whole data set's round to 0, right? And while we know that Humane Society and foster-based rescues return to home numbers will never exceed that, right, of animal control, we have honestly faced, and by we I mean Petco Love, has honestly faced unexpected opposition from within our own animal welfare ranks, not unlike what Julie talked about yesterday morning, at the mere suggestion that we thought that pet parents deserved a chance to get their own pets back rather than adopting them out, right? And that is a little sad sometimes, right? So if I can be really vulnerable with y'all for just a minute, I wasn't particularly comfortable presenting this session, even though I believe in my bones that regardless of your organization type, it's the right thing to do to send lost pets home. I believe in my bones God brought me a 3-legged blue tick coonhound that was hell on absolute wheels, and my team will tell you they've met her. And she ran away from home no less than once a year for like 8 years. And I'm a damn good dog mom, right? But I swear to you, God brought me this dog so I don't judge people, right? So I wasn't really sure or comfortable how to deliver this session. And so yesterday, Julie's delivery and general session, like, gave me the confidence I needed, I think, to talk to y'all today. When I heard her say that early on, best friends' biggest detractors weren't the public. And I don't think ours are either. The public damn sure wants their animals back, right? They love their animals and they want them back. So if y'all will, join with me just till the end of this session or the end of this conference, or if you're a hell of a dreamer like me, till the end of this year, right? And like, let's just dare to be dreamers for a little bit and like radically rethink what we think about return to home. Can y'all do it? How do you feel? Yep. Okay, let's do it. All right. And if you love data, because I am not a data analyst, big plug for Brent. Go, Brent. Thank you for sharing your data. Brent has a session tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It's in the home stretch, or it's about the home stretch, and it is, I don't know what room it's in. Do you know what room it's in? Never mind, the app knows. We'll keep it rolling. Thanks, Brent. Did I do okay? Did I butcher your data? Am I good? Excellent. Look at that endorsement. Woo! It's in River Oaks. Excellent. Okay, so who remembers 2014? HSUS's Pets for Life program rolled out Adopters Welcome. Who remembers that? Handful of y'all. Anybody working in animal welfare in 2014? Ooh, Lord, we're aging out. Okay, so, all right. So in 2014, HSUS's Pets for Life program kind of revolutionized the adoption market, right? By saying, hey, you should probably let down your barriers to adoption. And everybody wants animals in homes, and you're declining adoptions left and right, right? And what it was a common sense approach to eliminating barriers to adoption. And it was founded on some assumptions that I still assume to this day, and I hope everyone in this room still assumes to this day about people in general, but also animal-loving people, that people are good, right? We assume good intent. We have a mutual desire that animals have loving and happy homes, and that there's a human-animal bond, and that regardless of your income or socioeconomic status or race or whatever, that animals love people and people love them back, right? And that we all have a shared goal that animals everywhere should live, right? If you live in Oklahoma, if you live in Texas, if you live in, I don't know, Timbuktu, that we want those animals to live, right? And lastly, that I assume we all believe this, that progress requires constant evolution, okay? And one quote from that handbook was, and I love this, was that by allowing people to adopt and by reducing those barriers, you could have a new friend for your organization, you open a spot in a shelter, positive outcomes motivates your staff and overcomes compassion fatigue, which I think we're all feeling, right? And then adopters are gonna find a safety net in your organization rather than a critical judgment zone, right? So I loved this, and it was revolutionary, and now today, people are like, y'all have adoption barriers, right? Right? So how does this apply to return to home? A few ways, right? Number one, because we as an industry have not applied those same innovative principles to return to home, right? We have not evolved return to home. And in fact, I would argue that sometimes it's easier to adopt a pet than get your own damn pet back, right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Okay, second, some shelters are holding on to COVID-era appointments only. We're open for 4 hours, 3 days a week. You can't walk through our kennels, like whatever that is, right? But your kennels are stacked 6 dogs deep, like let people in, right? And those COVID-era policies that are still in place, I think have probably not kept up with the need, hence the stalled adoptions. If you're not open for adoptions, guess what stalls? Adoptions, right? 3, and I'm going back to Brent, daily populations in shelters is at a 6-year high. You gotta like open the doors, man. And 4, to course correct the national save rate, the entirety of animal welfare, regardless of your organization type, has got to become aware of and better serve our blind spots. We have to unify, regardless of organization type, to embrace and expedite all live outcomes, period. That means if it takes you 3 weeks to process an adoption, I'm stepping on your toes right now, right? I'm just saying, stepping on your toes. Also, we have to update once well-intended policies that have become roadblocks to our goals. So if a well-intended policy is that you call every landlord, that you call every vet 17 times, that you, all of those things, all you're doing is plugging up the pipeline. And just because this animal is in a foster home and it's safe, something in a shelter isn't, right? So that is how adopters welcome applies to return to home. So we have 4 key steps that we need you guys to take, and then I swear I'm going to let Karen talk. We have 4 key steps that we would love you guys to take to radically change your return to home policies. And the first one is to look at your mission and your policies. And so the things that I think that you should consider about your mission and your policies, first of all, what is your mission? Do y'all know it? Save animals, right? Is it to save animals in your organization or everywhere? All of them, everywhere. Right? Is it to find adopters that look like you? No, right? Is it to find adopters that have 25 grand in an emergency veterinary fund? Who here's got that? Nobody, right? Okay, so then do your policies and procedures reflect your mission? Maybe, right? When was the last time they were revised? Do we know? Because it's annoying. Nobody likes to do that stuff, right? And what has changed since? Do you have a new director? Has your funding changed? Do you have new staff? COVID probably changed, right? All of that has changed, right? And do your policies and procedures, do they remove barriers to live outcomes or do they add barriers? Do they expedite them or do they bottleneck them? And is your mission about your own organization or is it about community-wide life-saving, right? So with that, I'll give it to Karen.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet all of you. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm from Colorado, and I founded Animal Rescue the Rockies 20 years ago. After taking the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary How to Start a Sanctuary workshop, I decided to open a foster-based rescue, and that's what we do. We generally adopt out around 2,000 pets a year, and as Chelsea said, we have somehow 113% of our pets, I'm not sure how that happens, but posted on Petco Love Lost, and I would encourage everyone to do that because return to home is a huge part of clearing out your shelters and your foster homes. And, you know, I don't, how many of you have lost your own pet? Just show of hands. See, look, you know, and we're all good pet parents, right? But sometimes they have a mind of their own. It's really not the person's fault. We can't just assume that it's a bad pet parent because their pet got lost. And I know that happens so often, you know, well, they let their dog, you know, how did they let their dog out? You know, they must be, you know, irresponsible, and I don't think that dog should go back to them. And we just can't be that way. Years ago, Faith Maloney, with Best Friends, one of the founders, said over and over again these 3 words, we don't judge. And those stuck with me. Remember those 3 words, we don't judge, because you have to have conversations with people. You have to find out, you know, perhaps they had a loose fence board. Their kids opened the front door, you know, and the dog ran out. We've had dogs that got out of their harness and leash through no fault of the person walking them. We had a little dog that was gone for 5 months, and he got out of his harness the day he was adopted by a young couple, and they were distraught. They did everything they could, flyers, posters, Petco Love Lost. 5 months later, he turned up in a neighborhood not too far away, and he ended up at a shelter, Adams County shelter. He was microchipped, so they called us, and we reunited him and this young couple, and they were overjoyed, and they've had him safely ever since. If we had said, no, you lost him, you know, you can't have him back, that would have been a shame. And it's the same for cats. We all know how animals are. They just, some of them escape, and it's just not the parents' fault. So we can't judge people about that. And we don't want to let, you know, an experience with a few maybe unpleasant situations taint our vision for the future. And conversations, like I said, are so important because sometimes people really just don't know. They love their pet, but maybe they don't realize that they shouldn't let their cat out every night to go explore, you know? This is an opportunity to maybe, you know, encourage them, tell them about the dangers, and encourage them to keep their cat indoors. They may listen to you, they may not. We just don't have control over everything. We have to realize that all we can do is talk to people, have a conversation, and some things are out of our control. But I was shocked, and I don't know if you had this statistic yet, but Chelsea told me that only about, is it 20% of pet parents check the shelter when they lose a pet. I was just flabbergasted. To me, that seems like the first place they would go. And if only 20%, that's 80% of lost pets that are out there and their pet parents don't know to contact a shelter. So how are they going to find their lost pet? Well, they're going to have to rely on social media, really, maybe flyers or word of mouth, but by listing all of your pets on Petco Love Lost, you'll have the photo up there. And we have had calls from people stating that, this cat looks just like my cat, and it may be somebody from another state, but we have also had cats adopted from Colorado that ended up in Florida and got lost there. So having a national database like this is key, and using it is key. You have to use it, or you have to use the tool, or it's not going to help. So I really highly encourage everyone to rethink your policy, and if your current shelter or organization for some reason isn't posting all of your pets on there for whatever reason, I would say go to your executive director, go to your board, tell them about what you've learned here, and encourage them to do this because it doesn't hurt anything, and it's only going to help.
Thanks. Do you guys see this nuts? The comic. Can you guys read the comic?
Oh, the comic,
I love it.
yeah.
It's so cute, right? Speak of expediting things.
Yeah.
Sonic will get himself adopted. I love it. Okay, number 2, update community outreach to maximize life-saving across your community, right? So speaking of Petco Love Lost, the top screen grab here is Karen's organization's screen grab from Petco Love Lost. So things that we would like for you to consider here is, do your communications reflect your mission, right? Back to that old mission statement. Do your communications reflect your mission? Are your communications life-saving based, or are they just fundraising based? And I am not taking away from fundraising. Obviously, we're giving away grants in this session because we fundraise a lot, but we also focus lots of our marketing on life-saving as well. And then do they work to expedite your live outcomes, including return to home, and reduce your length of stay across your community? So we often hear that organizations don't want to show animals that are in foster care, or they don't want to show animals like medical holds, okay? And so I have a former colleague who is here. She did 2 social media sessions today, one at 9 and one at 2. So shout out Sarah, I think she's in the overflow room. But this little dog, pictured on the bottom of your screen, was actually hit by a car. While he looks cute and smiling, I think he was trying to rip her face off. And so can you guys, is it too small? Can y'all read this font, the post? So it initially said, hit by car. Please share to help us find their people. If this is your dog, please come up to the shelter. We're here until 6. Our medical team is giving this baby good pain medication, and we're about to take x-rays to see the extent of his injuries. He seems to be stable at this time, must have proof of ownership to reclaim. And then later on they did pup date, reunion with his mama. He was so glad to see her. Once they posted this photo, he was reclaimed within 2 hours. And guess what? They didn't have to pay for his care because his mom was so excited to get him, took him to her veterinarian. And so what you can't see here is the extent of his injuries, right? Because he was hit in the back end and they just put a blanket over it. And then he looks cute because he looks like he's smiling. He's totally not, right? But a lot of organizations are scared to post things like that or give visibility to things like that. They are not a shy organization to post all kinds of stuff. But she has a very unique knack for how to sweetly paint a almost sad picture. Do you know what I mean? There's a sad situation, but she paints it in a way that they're really providing the care for that pet, and she raises them a lot of money that way. And it gets the pet out there and can help find its parent.
So update your web privacy settings to maximize the visibility for all of the pets in your care. You can, for instance, like she said, with this little dog, they covered his back end up with a blanket. You don't want to gross people out or show graphic images, but you can use Photoshop to put a flower over the injury or something. If people read about it, that's all they need. And if needed, increase your customer service capacity with lost and found volunteers. I know I've heard people say, well, we don't have time to be answering all these emails or phone calls from people saying, is this my lost cat? Well, we don't get that many emails, but we do respond to each one of them and answer their questions. But if this becomes an issue with your organization, find a volunteer who works from home and who loves to answer the phone and loves to talk to people and loves to, converse via email. It's somebody would love to do that. So that's no excuse. No excuses accepted there.
Additionally, increased communication from people is increased opportunities for outcomes, right? So it's really important that you do consider those folks. And if it's not really their pet, maybe they'll adopt it anyway, right? It's already available, right? Maybe they'll adopt it or they'll donate to it or whatever that is, as long as they have a good customer service experience with your organization.
Right. You definitely don't want to lose that opportunity. You have a contact with a person there, and you may get a new pet adopted because it looks just like their cat, so it's worth it. So click or train your community. Positive reinforcement shapes local communities' view of animal welfare and return to home. Stay positive. Everybody likes, optimism and positivity, and that's what we're all about. Share this with your community. Share the resources. A lot of people don't know about this option. People don't even know about Petco Love Lost. So share it with your friends and family on social media, nextdoor.com, your own Facebook pages, Instagram, whatever. Get the word out there. And let people know that this option is out there and to use it. And then celebrate your success.
Neighbors.
Yep.
We have a partnership with Neighbors, just saying.
Oh, okay.
So conversations are absolutely key. So things to consider. We had a customer insights survey done around lost and found. And what we learned is more than half, 51% of pet parents reported having lost a pet at some time in their life. More than half, right? So we're not talking just, low-level pet parents, whatever. More than half of people have lost a pet at some point, and yet 22% of them looked in the shelter. And for a million reasons. Oh, a coyote got my cat. Oh, my dog was old and it went off to die. You've heard all the things, right? Oh, it got hit by a car. Somebody else took it in, or they don't know where their local shelter is or whatever. It could have never made it that far to the shelter, whatever those things are, right? And so I live in Texas. The stray holds 48 hours. And so if that animal gets on the next Dog Is My Co-Pilot flight, it could be in New York by next week, right? So people don't know to look at the shelter. And so you just have to meet those people with empathy. I think you also have to meet the people with an empathy for the existing bond, not only those people that they have with their pet, but that the pet has with the people, right? You've all seen how excited an animal is when their parent comes to get it, right? Whether it's been 6 years or 6 hours, like they are so excited to see their family again. And then, we do not live in an ideal world. Shelters and rescue groups exist because the world is not perfect, right? So do not let perfect be the enemy of good. A loving home, even if it doesn't look like yours, is better than no home, right? It's better than a stainless steel cage. It's better than euthanasia by a long shot, right? And so, again, I was so moved yesterday by the general session. Francis Batista said, trust the public sooner. The public are not our detractors. We get in our own way, right? So let's get out of our own way. And I was searching for images for this slide, and I was looking for an image that exuded empathy between an animal welfare worker and a pet parent. Do you know I had the hardest time finding one? Every image I saw was like a shelter person almost protecting this animal from a person coming to meet it. And I was like, ooh, this is not a good look for us, right? And so I did run across this photo on the top. I love this photo. If Fur Kids from Georgia is in the house, this is a Fur Kids photo. Yay! This is a Fur Kids photo, and I looked for, I'm telling you, 45 minutes before I could find a photo that was exuded grace and empathy like this photo. So good job to Fur Kids. And then I also saw this girl on the bottom that was a volunteer at the shelter and found her long lost cat at the shelter. So I love that. So, some of the action items are, just commit yourselves to kindness and curiosity, not assumptions, not judgments. Trust that people do want their pets. They do want what's best for them. If you come across somebody who doesn't, fine. Sometimes people will say, oh, that dog's run away so many times, I don't want it anymore. And that's an opportunity to help the pet, obviously, and say, well, we'll be happy to rehome him for you. But usually that doesn't happen. And have open and easy conversations that position pet families for success. On our website, we offer resources for pet owners, and we have tons of information on there, and I know bestfriends.org does too.
more than you could ever want, to help families that have issues. Like, for instance, if their dog keeps escaping because of a loose board and a fence, offer to have some volunteers come out and help repair their fence. Maybe it's a single mom with kids and she doesn't know how to fix it. You just don't know what's going on until you talk to people. So offer your organization as a resource and as a safety net if the people need support in the future. You're establishing a relationship with them, and this could be an important contact for you in the future. They may refer your organization to their friends, neighbors, coworkers as, this is a great place, you should go adopt a pet from them. They helped me so much to find my lost Fido. So take advantage of that and look at it from that way.
I love that. Okay, last but not least, train your team. And I always think that, back to that mission thing again, I have a theme, obviously. Mission alignment, I think, starts at recruitment, okay? Whenever I would be hiring people at my shelter, we always started with open interviews. You got 5 minutes to impress me, okay? First question I would ask people, why do you want to work here? If people would say, I like animals better than people, you ain't the one. Next, next. Guess what? Why? Why is that? Who saves animals? People, right? People are your adopters. People are your donors, all of that, right? And so if you don't like people, you're not going to save my animals. Get out of here, right? So right? Preach. So if you start with aligning people to your mission from recruitment, and I'm not saying go fire everybody you got or all your volunteers or what, I'm not saying that. But if you implement that from recruitment, it's easier to manage those people from the get-go. And if you have people on the team that don't really like people, maybe they should be in animal care and maybe not on your adoption line or your return to home line, right? And so other things to consider, is your customer service culture one of gratitude? If people email you about adoption or return to home, do you thank them for doing that? The first slide I showed you, I thanked you guys for being here, right? Did y'all do that? Or is it one of criticism? And so are you immediately judging the people whose pets were lost? Or are you thanking them for actually looking and considering that a pet in your organization might be theirs? So
right, exactly. And to help your organization, it'll be really great if you can develop a return to home training guide. Like, for instance, we have emails that we send to our coordinators and people that answer the phone with scripts that they can use, email templates, questions that they can ask. Nothing too invasive, just basic questions that they can ask. Ownership verification can be as simple as a photo of them with the pet, and the markings on the pet can be enough, and just asking them where they live, the timing, that sort of thing. And if you don't have current volunteers to do that, find some. We use volunteermatch.org. Has anybody used that? We get a lot of response from that. It's been great. So just put the word out on social media. Hey, help us. We need some help in this area. We always have people volunteering to help us, and they want a specific role. So this would be your opportunity to develop a return to home coordinator, and then find some volunteers to help them. Provide them all the resources, have it in writing, and you're good to go.
I always think of those Facebook volunteer lost and found groups. They never set foot in the shelter, right? They could live anywhere in the world. Harness them. They're going to use their energy anyway. Harness it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think I have time for this. It's super cute, but I don't have time. Okay. The next steps are review and revise your organization's mission. I went there 100 times. And your policies and procedures. Number 2, update your community outreach to maximize your life-saving impact. Number 3, empathetically engage with lost pet parents. Always assume good intent. Conversations are key. Make gratitude the cornerstone of your customer service culture. Provide training tools and resources to ensure everyone on your team is delivering consistent messaging. I'm dropping things. Oh my God, I broke it. I'm so sorry. And then don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Oh, Lord. I'm glad it's the end. Sorry, guys. I got 5 minutes for questions, but first, do you want to know who won the money? That was weak. Woo.
Yeah.
Weak. Who on the team knows? Okay, Becca.
That's me. I know. Do you want me to just yell it, or do you want?
I want you to come up here and yell it.
Okay.
I have a.
Hi guys.
Come near me because they'll hear you better.
All right. So
And the people in the overflow. Hi, people in the overflow.
Hi.
Oh, yay. Perfect.
even better. On?
Can you
I
hear
feel like
me?
we're going to incur an expense over this.
Wow. Okay. So we do have 4 winners to be announced.
Whoop, whoop.
Can I get a drum roll
Listen
for our
here.
first group here?
If you ain't the loudest person in this room, we're going to go to the next person. Okay? We're going to need
All
some
right.
noise.
We have Angel City Pit Bulls. Woo! Perfect. And our next group is Dallas Dogs RRR.
Wait a minute. How do we say this? Do you grr? Do you grr when you say it?
Dallas Dogger. Oh,
I thought we were going to grr when we said it. Okay.
I love that. All right. And our third spot here is Jenny's Rescue Ranch. And finally, last but not least, Rockwall Pets. Woo!
Congratulations, guys. Okay, how much time do we have? 3 minutes. We can do
boy.
Q&A for 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, thank you. You're saving my life. 3 minutes for questions.
Okay, Mike, here.
Excuse me, sorry.
Right there? Oh, for her, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to preface this question with the fully on board here, but advice for your staff who are going to struggle with length of stay while they search for a pet parent.
If it's adoptable, whatever the fastest outcome is the answer. Period. Get it out, right? So not saying adoption is not an option. The fastest outcome is the option, right? So for humane societies and foster-based rescues, it literally just opens up another pathway. So that's the answer. Yes, ma'am. Mackenzie.
Does this software integrate with shelter software? Does it integrate with any shelter?
Does Petco Love Lost
Yes.
integrate? It does integrate, yes. It integrates with Pet Point, Chameleon, Shelter Love, Shelter Buddy, RescueGroups.org, and Pet Finder. Whew, I haven't answered that in a while. Okay. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Go, girl.
Where are you going?
She had raised
I'm
her
happy
hand
to
a minute
repeat the
ago,
question
so-
if it saves
yeah.
you some steps. Okay.
So I work for an organization that's predominantly transferring in from other organizations. So we don't have return to home as often as, say, a municipal shelter. It does happen from time to time. And we often, so this is kind of a secondary question, we often get pushback from the originating shelter with the judgment of like, well, they already ran through their stray hold, they shouldn't get that animal back. And we're like, we'll give them the medical services they need, and we want them to go to the home that they had. That person clearly loves them. Do you have recommendations for how to like build rapport between us and those other shelters that are kind of pushing back on us a little bit?
I love this question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to answer it with the microphone on.
Maybe we'll chat
We've
about
met.
it.
We've
Yeah,
met.
We'll chat later, maybe.
I'll come up with the PC answer and type it later. Okay. Great question, though. I don't have an answer to it. Or not one with a microphone. Okay.
When will an app come out so that we can have it on our phones all the time?
Our product has here in the back corner. I'll connect you with him after. When will the Petco Love Lost app come out is the question, and I'm not going to answer it, but he's over here in the corner. Aaron Klein, raise your hand. Okay. What problems you need to solve, we can talk about that, and he'll figure it out.
I have one more comment that I wanted to have you thinking in your little brains here before you leave. This is a quote from the Humane Animal Control booklet that the Best Friend Network Partners booth has out there for free. It's Lauren Bluestone with the Nashville, Tennessee Metro Animal Care and Control. And this quote kind of says it all. The administrative and time-consuming activities involved in returning pets to their owners are nothing compared to the burden it places on all aspects of the organization to house the animals. So think about that. So
That's my official answer. Thank you guys, you're awesome. And congratulations to all the winners.